So the first step is to determine if a precise planetary high or low has occurred at the planetary lines based on the planetary price harmonics or aspects occurring. And this is what I've spent pretty much the whole day teaching you how to do and how to figure out, is step 1. And that's the majority of the work here, is in step 1. Okay? The rest is easy after this step. And you're not going to be able to do step 1 effectively if you don't understand all these basic core concepts, like the price conversion of the planets, the longitude conversion, the factors, the mirrors, the non-mirrors, right? The settings, the aspects, and how to adjust it correctly. So that's the setup. That's your trade setup, is to determine a precise high or low. And what is precise? I mean, it should be almost exact. I mean, I give it 3 ticks for the E-mini.
Can you do both the high and low? Have you nailed the high and low of the day?
Well, yeah, I think I nailed the high today for the S&P.
Nail both the high and the low.
What if you do?
No.
Oh, yeah, you can, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you get a planetary high and low, then these are short-term reversals one way or another. But one's going to be stronger than the other. It depends on the aspects involved, the planets involved, and the harmonics involved. So you have to ask yourself, is this a first harmonic low, a second harmonic low? Is it a 6th harmonic high? And which is stronger?
So which planet are the outer planets stronger than the inner one?
Well, generally speaking, if it's an outer planet, it's a longer term shift.
Right.
If it's an inner planet, it's a shorter term. But you saw the Venus-Mars sextile and how that was a nice, about 3 or 4 week move in gold. Right?
Yeah, so if you say planets, I thought maybe you...
But with that Jupiter-Pluto square in August, that could be a longer term bottom. That 9,800 level might hold the rest of the year. In any case, it's held for over a month since, right? How long has it been? A little over a month and a half. Now, the next step is determine what the trend is in all time frames. Is the trade opportunity going in the direction of the trend and the time frame you are trading, or is this a counter trend trade opportunity? If you cannot answer this question, do not proceed to go to the next step.
So it begs the question, which is probably one of the most important questions, is how do you define trend?
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to talk about right now. And if you turn to page 42, this is from the Fibonacci Trader, and this is from Robert Krauss's work. I don't know if any of you knew him, but we did a workshop together in 2001. I think it was his last one, 2001. But there's what he calls laws of multiple time frames. Every time frame has its own structure. The higher time frames overrule the lower time frames. And this is very logical stuff here, and I really understood this immediately because it relates to the astrology. It's like an outer planet has a higher hierarchy, this is a stronger influence than a faster planet.
Stays in the sky longer and
Stays,
more spot.
right. I mean, ask anybody. Yeah, if you're going through a tough Pluto transit or Saturn transit, and Venus conjuncts your Sun, you're going to have a nice day for a day, but it's relative, all relative to what's going on, in the greater picture of your life or in the world. And
Yes, but I feel okay today.
right, you feel pretty good today, right? Enjoy it while it lasts.
Enjoy those few hours.
And that has to do with the cycles within cycles. And that's what Gann talked about. There's greater cycles and there's lesser cycles. The greater cycles are based on the outer planets, and the lesser cycles are based on the inner planets. The higher time frames are based on, say, the monthly chart, a weekly chart. You could even run a quarterly chart, right?
Yearly chart.
A yearly chart.
2-year chart.
2-year charts, 5-year.
You can really go out there, and the higher the time frame, the stronger the influence. And that governs the price action in the lower time frames. So resistance in a monthly chart is going to define support resistance in a weekly chart. Certain points in the weekly chart are going to define support resistance in a daily chart. So it has to do with these multiple time frames. Prices in a lower time frame structure tend to respect the energy points of a higher time frame structure. It's like an inner planet respecting the energy of an outer planet. Or like in the corporate world, it's a, what? Your boss overseeing the manager or whatever. And then an employee. There's an employee, and then there's a, what? Assistant manager, supervisor, I don't know where, I'm glad I'm not in that.
The temps.
You know? Yeah, then there's
The temps.
It's called brown stuff flows downhill.
is that it? I see. That's great to know.
Trickle down.
So that's how it works with astrology, with the speed of the planets. That's why you have to know the speed of the planets and really understand that. And with these higher time frames and lower time frames. The energy points of support resistance created by the higher time frames, or vibration prices, can be validated by the action of the lower time periods. He said it much better than I did, so I'm reading this. The trend created by the next time period enables us to define the tradable trend. And what appears to be a chaos in one time period can be order in another. I mean, if you look at a 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute chart, there's so much noise in that, right? You think that the trend is going one direction or another direction every half an hour. But if you look at a 60-minute chart or daily chart, it's a different picture.
Right.
So,
Whose laws were these, did you say?
this is from Fibonacci Trader and Robert Krauss. So back to a price chart here. Here's an XAU, and that's why I use the Fibonacci Galactic Trader combo, is because it's based on this multiple time frame approach. So there's 3 time frames in the program that you select. So I'm choosing daily, weekly, and monthly. The own period is the time frame that you're actually trading. The weekly is the next higher time frame, and the highest is the highest time frame you're using to define, greater support resistance areas. And then there's some indicators here. There's a whole series of them, and some of them I use more than others. Here's a high-low activator own, next, and high. This is what it looks like. But the own is the daily, this is the daily period. See the red and the green? That defines the tradable trend in the daily time frame, right? And this white indicator going up is based on the next higher time frame, which would be the weekly. So that would be resistance, which it blew through, right? And then this would be support. which it bounced off of. So on the daily, you got a sell signal, but on the weekly, it's defining support here. But one of my favorite ones I use all the time, you see on my charts, is the dynamic trio own and next.
What is next to 2?
The next is based on the weekly.
2, there's another next to it.
These are just the default settings.
2 ticks.
Yeah, it's two ticks, which you can change or adjust.
It has a close 2 ticks above before it.
Right, before the indicator flips. And you can adjust that. Bless you.
Pages, whatever.
Yeah, Tanya?
It has a close 2 ticks above.
Is dynamic trio the Fibonacci?
That's in the Fibonacci. It's in the Fibonacci trader. Right, it's the Fibonacci trader. Or you can get it as the combo. So here on the daily, we flipped above the dynamic trio. We broke below. And then here's the own, and there's the next based on the weekly, right? And we're breaking above this high. So that's a strong buy signal when we're breaking above resistance on the weekly time frame. We come all the way back up here. Now it flips. So now it's safe to be considering continue to be considering buying on pullbacks in the daily chart, because now this indicator flipped. You want to be looking to short when price is below the dynamic trio here. And then when it flips based on the next higher time frame, the weekly time frame, you want to be buying.
You find it slower than the, I mean, it's slower, but it gives you more space. And then how do you decide, well, today I'm going to use the high-low, or tomorrow I'm going to use a dynamic trio? Do you have any kind of...
Well, if I want to get in faster, the high-low is a little bit tighter. It gets me in a little bit sooner. Yeah, and then the flip it is the tightest.
Oh, okay.
There's another one I use for fast entries.
Or for a trading start, really tight trading start.
Mhm. And it's this indicator.
Changing colors.
Yeah, I made it a little bit thicker so you could see it. So you'd be buying here, and that's your trailing stop. So it's just kind of choppy in this area. You don't want to be doing anything in here. But that's your best opportunities when you broke above the dynamic trio next. Right? And then as soon as this flips here, you want to be getting out. You want to be out.
Can you put a monthly on? I want to see what the monthly. Looks like the top is the monthly or something.
On the dynamic trio, it only does own and next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you can type in
You
H.
can tap it in H.
Ted, you can type in H into the indicator.
Oh, okay, and change it that way. There you go. So there's the monthly. So it's way up here. That worked pretty well, huh?
Yeah, it actually did. Huh.
So the next month's resistance was having an effect on this. Go into the 4 AM month, you gotta look at that next month's.
So this helps define the tradable trend, right? So even though we're long, if you're trading the daily, we're approaching resistance here now on the monthly, which is a red flag for gold, right? This is the XAU. Until we break above here. This top that was made on August. Now, how do you define the trend? You know, one of the other indicators you can use, I'm just going to get this off here. Just one more I'm going to demonstrate. I use the Gann swing chartist, which defines the trend also. and you can do that in the own next time frame. But basically, this defines the swings up and down. When this peak is exceeded, the swing turns positive, right? So you want to be buying on pullbacks. Then it turns down. Then it turns up again.
Just for the people who don't
Mm-hmm.
have the program. On the disc that you get there are all 15 articles that
Mm-hmm.
Robert Krauss wrote, I guess he wrote most of them. And he deals with a lot of the indicators. And I don't know if you've used the echo at all, but
A little bit. Mm-hmm.
supposedly
Mm-hmm.
was one of his favorites.
The echo, yeah. Yeah. Prior to his death, yeah. With William Blau's.
Article on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
He gives illustrations.
I think you like the dynamic trio too, because you talked about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And how to activate
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So which of these swing tools do you use?
I like the swing chartist. Now, this is based on the next higher time frame, the weekly, and that just turned positive here, right?
Yeah.
But on the dynamic trio, we're at resistance. So I'm just totally neutral right now with gold. I don't know what to think right now. So I'm just going to stay out until at least next week or longer.
Can you put in support and resistance for this month?
For which market?
For this?
For this?
Yes.
Which indicators?
It's like 0.618 and 100% of some fib levels. This is what the painting.
Yeah, I could, after we're done, I could show it to you. We could throw that on. So it's important to have a definable trend and know what it is, know what your support resistance is based on the different time frames. Okay, and you can always switch the time frames here, weekly, monthly. Or you don't even have to do that. There's another feature in the program called encapsulation. Where is it? Here it is. If you click on that, you got daily and weekly on the same price chart. So these price bars are weekly bars. And you got the daily inside each of them. And this is something Robert came up with and patented. And this gives you both time frames at the same time. And you can run, retracements. We're at the 618 right here. That's a 618 retracement of this, from that high to this low. So you can click that on and off, and it gives you more information. So it's very valuable to incorporate this approach with the planetary stuff, so you know the trend, you know what you're doing, and you can answer. You know what direction you're going in. Is this a pullback in an uptrend, or is this a counter trend trade? If it's against the trend, we want to be more aggressive with our stops and profit points, right? So. Any questions about the multiple time frames?
You define the trend by the higher time frame.
Yeah, the higher time frame defines the tradable trend for the lower time frame. So once we have a precise planetary high or low, we know what the trend is, we know where our technical support resistance is, We know what the opportunity is based on the higher time frames. We enter the trade using one of the technical indicators from the Fibonacci trader. So let's go back to another chart. Let's go to the E-mini again. Okay, here's today. I just have a Mercury-Saturn line on, right? This is from Friday's high. And these lines are starting to separate. So I don't know if these lines are going to be as strong as much anymore. The Sun, Jupiter, Neptune lines are stronger. But let me go back to the high that happened in this example. Okay, there we are. There we are. Okay. This is Friday. You click on aspect research search once again. Mercury semi-square Saturn, 45 degrees. Right? You have your Mercury Saturn lines on. These are the mirror lines. This is one of my examples for tomorrow with the moon, but there was a moon north node aspect that timed the top perfectly, which also includes a timing, day trading the moon timing indicator when the lunar aspect occurred. We had a precise high at the Mercury Saturn line, right? So we're looking for price to break below this flip it indicator. Okay, and once it does, then we're looking to go short. And that's step 3. Enter the trade using one of the technical indicators. So we're entering the trade here at this bar, in this time frame. This is a 4-minute chart here. And once we enter that on that bar, the initial stop loss is placed immediately just above the planetary lines that trigger the reversal of going short, or just below the lines that trigger the reversal of going long. And I give it 3 ticks for the E-mini. So if you entered about 11:29, your stop is just above the Mercury-Saturn line initially, and give it about 3 ticks. So if the Mercury-Saturn line is 11:31.50, your stop would be around 11:32.25. Okay? And your entry point's around 11:29. So you've predetermined your risk and your loss, right when you take the trade. And what is the risk here? It's about 3 points, which is $150 per contract. The next step is to continue to adjust your stop loss using one of the technical indicators from the Fib trader once it starts to work. Okay, is this trade starting to work? Yeah, so initially you entered here, you placed the stop here. Now you'd be lowering it, okay, with this flip it indicator as it starts to work for you. And if you're interested in taking a position trade and giving it a little more room, you could leave some contracts on with a stop still above the planetary lines here, because that's a strong resistance area. Right? And you take some of them off on a break above the trailing stop, the flip it indicator. Okay, if that was the case, you would have got stopped out on this bar. And this is a 4-minute time frame you're trading if you're day trading. And so that was close to break even on that trade, if you were just trading the 4-minute chart.
Do you ever use an oscillator to give you a sense that maybe the swings will...
Yeah, there's the Blau oscillator. I use that one.
Use that?
Yeah, I use that. That's helpful. And then, I recommend taking partial profits 1/3 at predefined profit points, planetary lines. Your profit points are the planetary lines. And I always like to keep at least 1/3 on, letting the trailing stop take me out. Okay, and these are like my rules I use. And so if you got stopped out there, this is just a 4-minute chart. You could be trading a 15-minute chart and you may not have got stopped out. But if you're trading 4-minute, then you would have got back in here.
Can you put on, let's say, the 15-minute, the next half time frame as a backup? Stop if we know your target, so you can still stay in there after taking off. That's the inside of the right.
Well, let's see. Let's go. We could go to dynamic trio next, right? And that's way down here. So in this time frame, the trend is up, right? So at this point, we're going against the trend in the 60-minute.
Can you use a 460?
Yeah, for fast entries, if I want to get in. But if you want to take a position, you could keep your stop just above this planetary line and be willing to take a 3-point loss. But if you're day trading, if you want to take quick profits, you'd be getting in and out when this indicator flips. Now, dynamic trio own is a little bit wider of a stop. And now I have both of them on. So now the flip it changed again, so you'd be short again. Right? And there's a profit point right here.
That point there looks like 50% of the range where the market usually likes to test. So you could, 50% short.
It was about 50% of the range, it looks. Okay. So now it's, chopping along here. And then we gap down on Monday. So sometimes it just pays to take a position. If you think if it's an important, significant high at the support resistance, and just keep your stop over there above that level. Right? Because you get all this choppy stuff, especially in the 4-minute chart. Now, if you don't want as much of that choppiness, you could go to a faster time frame, like 15 minutes. And you would have got in later and still got out there. So, because it was a pretty choppy day on that day, right? Unless you got in really quickly, kept your stop there and took profits. But this was the profit point based on that Mercury-Saturn aspect. And we broke just slightly below. And there's a dynamic trio indicator right underneath, right? And we came back up. So that was a strong profit point because we have a planetary line and the dynamic trio indicator based on the next higher time frame as support. So we want to be covering right there. But if you held a position, you know, it gapped down further, you'd be looking also to this next level is your next profit point, which is 2 Saturn lines, which is a 9-point move for the E-mini. So that's 9 points, which is the semi-square of 45 or 4.5 times 2. So it's 2 Mercury-Saturn lines. We broke slightly below, came back up, and that was resistance, and came back down again.
Are there ever, can you tell by the aspects if it's going to be a real choppy day?
Well, the volume could help tell you that, and yeah, some aspects if they're not as strong. Like today, there are so many aspects. Either it's going to be really big swings or it's going to be choppy. And it was pretty choppy until after the announcement. I don't know where we closed at today. But so these are the trading rules, okay, that I use. And sometimes it pays to just keep your stop on some contracts just above or below the planetary lines that triggered the reversal if you want to catch a bigger move. Because sometimes you can get stopped out too soon. And that low in May was a great example we had. I'm going to show you that tomorrow. That was a huge move up, and it was a precise low at the, it was a Jupiter aspect, actually, with the moon that triggered it.
So did you say it's actually better to look for days where there's fewer aspects than a day where you have a lot of aspects?
Well, on days with a lot of lunar aspects or planetary aspects, well, either or, they're going to be higher energy days, and you can catch some nice swings that way if you're day trading.
So it's good.
Yeah, you're looking for days like that. When there's not as many aspects, you know, they're trading range days, or the energy isn't there. So these are rules I've come up with. So we're defining the trend. We're using some technical tools to get in. We're defining profit points. We're using trailing stops based on the technical indicators, and we're using the planetary lines as profit points. So it's a whole practical way of using this. And if you stick to this, your losses are going to be small, unless price gaps up or down significantly, which happens sometimes.
When you get to the profit point, you obviously take your profit. Are you out totally, and then you're thinking to yourself, now is that line going to hold and it'll bounce back up, or is it going to go through down to the next line?
Yeah,
Do you start again your whole kind of a new trade?
Well, one of my rules here on Rule 6 is I always keep a third going,
Oh, okay.
longer term. And you can use a trailing stop.
Stop that, or you're going to the next one?
Yeah, because the market can reverse at some profit points, and sometimes it'll be a short-term reversal, and then the following day it'll blow through and continue. Sometimes the trend will continue for weeks, and you missed out, if you took it all off. And if you want to use a wider trailing stop on some positions, you can use the next indicator, next higher time frame. As long as you're using some trailing stop that will get you out when when a significant change in trends is about to happen.
Do you hold a position overnight?
Yeah, I do sometimes. I'm doing that more now. And you just trade less, and you can handle the risk. And if you get in at the right time, it starts going your way, you can afford to hold it overnight.
Ted, the CDs that you passed out, what are they?
I don't know. Carlos passed those out.
Well, it has the GT program, FTGT program.
Oh, if you don't have it.
Right, yeah, so 30 day, 30 days.
Or you can.
And it also has all 16 articles as PDF.
Oh, it has the
files.
articles too. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's
okay.
one little, and I guess it has the Bradley indicator.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do that tomorrow. Then?
Yeah.
I'd like to. Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, I'd like to show you the Bradley. And I want to review this again tomorrow. And I have more chart examples with some commodities I want to show you. And then I want to day trade the moon, show you that technique. But
Trade life?
well, not with this connection.
Well, you can show us how you set it up.
Where's your sense of adventure?
Yeah.
But the Bradley is great. It's a great add-on. You know, I can't recommend it enough. And here's.
Have you been using it?
Yeah, I started using it. I'll show it to you real quickly before we close. Bradley, this is the geo. There's different ways of using it. And you can go to the website and it explains, you know, the formulas and the different ways to apply it. I like using the color white. But basically, the Bradley is not telling you the direction. It's just telling you when a change in trend's about to occur. So you're looking in changes of the slope to happen. So you see here the bottom was the top, the change in slope. And then here. Now this was the big one. This was the 12th, 13th of August, right? So this low here was a high, and then the slope changed and it went up here to a peak. That was a low, and then it came all the way down here to a bottom. Now the slope changed again.
Can you invert it? I mean,
Well, no, the price chart could invert, but I mean,
You can't manually invert.
no, you can't invert it.
So at other times it's going to be the other way.
Yeah, it wouldn't make a difference. It's not really predicting direction. It's just telling you when a change in trend should happen.
And it also doesn't predict amplitude of the move either. It just is a trend change. That's all.
I just know that on some other program, the Bradley will flip. I mean,
Oh, is that right?
yeah, like Ensign has one, it'll flip it. It'll invert it, so you can see it's not that big of a deal, but
Well, you know what's significant is here we have the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, right? Which could bring a short-term reversal this week and all the other aspects. But then what's going on here on the 27th? That's next week around, what's that? See, we get another peak, and then the Bradley goes down again. So that supports what I was saying, that any move this week could be short term, and then we could get another reversal next week. Right? And this is additional information that you can use.
So that doesn't change at all. I mean, is it like if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it's going to change, or that's it?
Well, you can continue to project in the future. You can scroll the bar, the chart to the left.
But it doesn't readjust when you get two prices. You know, for example, in GET you got the Elliott wave.
Oh,
It labels it, but then when you get new bars, it changes all the numbers because now it's going to readjust.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't change. It's just yeah. This is the way it is, and it's projecting in the future based on planetary aspects. It's a whole mathematical formula used, which I don't know off the top of my head.
It is based on the planetary aspects only, and not on the price data or the
Right.
fund. So it's not going to alter in terms of price.
Yeah, it's based on aspects, and certain planets have different weightings than others, and aspects have other weightings than others. And it's a formula he came up with. And so we get into next week, and you know, whatever move happens here, it could change again.
What is the likelihood or the probability of a reversal on one of the pivots of the Bradley model? Can you get a
Well, I think lately it's been nailing it the last year or two, but I think it's over 70%. Wouldn't you say so, Tim?
I'm not sure it's that accurate, but it's tradable. You know. It adds some good information.
Yeah.
But again, you know, the challenge with it is that you start to look at it and misinterpret what the signal is actually telling you, you know, because it's not telling you the direction.
It's not telling you direction.
It's only telling you turning points.
Yeah.
Right. So these are turning points. That's
You see
a,
that
It sure looks like
move
direction.
down, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like, wow, that's, short. No,
Yeah.
what we got is a lot of turning points.
Right.
So,
and sometimes the market goes in the opposite or the same direction as this. So next week's another one, and then look here, the 25th of October. And then the 12th. When's the election?
November. And
The 2nd?
Why did they move it to the first Monday or Tuesday?
I thought it was on the 3rd. It's only the 2nd? Yeah. Well, then after the 12th here is another big downward move here.
No, you don't know it's down.
But I don't know downward. Right. It's a change in slope.
It's November 2nd.
Well,
Right.
what we would have is an unbroken trend in whatever
Right.
direction.
Right. So we're looking for a move here. It could shoot up after the election. What if what's his name wins? I don't know. That would be a downer.
Also, the good part is that the unbroken trend could be total chop. You know, it could be
Yeah.
horizontal.
That's possible too.
You know,
Yeah.
With a line like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you used the Geo regular, is that what it was? There's like 5 or 6 Bradley models in there.
Yeah. I'm just using the Geo.
Just the Geo.
Yeah. There's different ones you can use.
There's summation.
There's a Helio.
Yeah.
There's a summation index.
What's natural?
That's a natal.
That's the natal.
Oh, natal. Oh, natal Geo.
In other words, it
Yeah.
takes into account the chart of the market that you're trading.
Yeah. In fact, they use the New York Stock Exchange chart, I think, for that. Yeah. And you can use other charts.
And what about the summation one there? What is that? Bradley?
I think it's a combination of both. Yeah, but you can play around with them. I'm new to this. I just got it myself. I'm using just the Geo right now, and it's helped me the last month. I'm pretty happy because it nailed the turning point in August, and I'm looking for it, this week and next. So also that confirms what I'm looking for, probably to happen.
Did you use the default settings and everything when you put it in? Or did you...
Yeah, at this point I haven't really played with it too much. I've only been using it a couple months, but I'm familiar with it. I've seen it before, But it's just another tool to use in addition to everything else. And you can project in the future when the turning points are likely to happen. You can go into 2005. Here's 2005. Something's happening in January here.
Wow.
Some are predicting the market to go down after the election
Election day there.
early next year, but look at that. That's a big one.
Now,
That's a
you
big
say that
spike.
to be a big move, or is it just a...
Big change in trend, one way or the other. So it depends. A lot can happen between now and then.
So if it goes down, it's going to be down the rest of the year. January effect.
Could be. This is a big one here, because if you put it all together, look what's happened here.
Yeah, wow.
What are the aspects?
Can you go out in 2006?
On January 26th to July. That's a big move here. Then back down.
They said there's going to be a big sell-off. 2005 or 2006. Big. Yeah, who's they?
Don't read the newspaper.
Yeah,
That's all right. So,
Let the market speak. Yeah.
Time to buy.
There you go.
Here we go. I'm out to 2006.
It doesn't go that far. Oh,
Whoa.
yeah.
Looks like the big bellies.
The big kahuna down wave.
Here's another peak at the end of next year. So it's January of this coming year, new year, of 2005, and then the end of 2005, and then we have July.
Looks tradable anyway.
Because it goes down every June.
Yeah.
And picks up again.
We want to be a buy and hold the
The
best.
Z contract
Yeah.
almost goes down. There are again contracts.
Yeah.
The September contract or something like that was down. And end of the year.
And there was a fitness one, but
Medicine.
It's valuable stuff. It's a good thing to have, and I'm glad to use it. Oh, okay. All right, we're going to close for today, and so we'll start at 9 tomorrow, and we'll probably go at least until 4. I know some people have to leave early, and I will be able to get to the day trading the moon and some other practical applications, you know, in the morning and early afternoon tomorrow, and putting it together. And if we have even more time, I can get into, you know, more of the aspect research and setting up the settings to help you, you know, walk you through what you need to do when you go home.
cool.